Now, I, for one, love building anything abandoned in The Sims because it has a rich, deep history to it. It gives you some lore about the backstory of why it's abandoned, etc., etc. But to give you all some lore, I love the Walking Dead series more than anything. The TV show, all the spin offs, the video games that they've made about The Walking Dead. I've 100%ed every single DLC, minus the final season. I'm missing like maybe 10 achievements, but I love The Walking Dead. It's so gritty. It's so abandoned. There's so much lore, so much like history of every single character. Even though the TV show and the video game have completely different characters, I think they're still iconic till this day. And about 7 months ago, I had built a hotel in The Sims 4 around the time when we got businesses and hobbies. And I remember building something like that in The Sims 2, but I wanted to do it in The Sims 4 to see what I could possibly do with that pack. And I'm just now actually recording this video 7 months later. So when I tell you I built this hotel 7 months ago, I truly did. I built this back in like March of 2025, and I have so many builds that I've recorded in the past like several months that I just never really got around to actually recording due to like being busy and traveling and moving, and like mental health was kind of out of the water, that I just didn't have the energy to record these builds because they take so long to edit. I have to cut them down. But I wanted to actually talk about this particular hotel, or more specifically, the Hotel Motel Holiday Inn, or the Slim Shady Motel. And I remember having so much fun with this build when I was starting to build it on stream, because I don't know what comes over me every time I build something abandoned or just something really gritty and gross. But I just like the idea of playing around with like build mode items that I've never really used, and like think of like new storylines that I could possibly think of with a build that I'm building in that day. And so I have built a hotel motel several years ago in The Sims 2 in Pleasant View. If you haven't seen that video, I will link it down below in the description. But back then I was heavily inspired by the video game Life is Strange 2, because Sean and Daniel were on the run and everything was going down with them, and they had to stay in this hotel motel with their mom in like this weird deserty abandoned area. And I kind of got the idea of building a similar motel like that but in this game, because Oasis Springs kind of fits that Palm Springs, deserty vibe that I love. And I've never been to Palm Springs, I've never been to Joshua Tree, I've never been to Coachella, and I've been to California several times, but I've never really been to like the desert. So the idea of building like a deserty, broken down, weird, slim shady looking motel made total sense to me. And I remember so many years ago, I think about like maybe 7, 8 years ago, I remember I made Kenny from The Walking Dead, the video game, in The Sims 4. And I had so much fun doing that because I love The Walking Dead more than anything. I mean, Lee Everett, Clementine, Kenny, his wife, his kid, all the characters in that game are iconic. The TV show, however, they're all, crazy. Carl, I mean, they're all wild. I don't like the characters in that show. Negan Morgan, step on a Lego, please and thank you, because that did not need to happen. But if you know, you know. But essentially, with this little hotel motel, I had several different rooms that pretty much were all the exact same, but each room had their own distinct theme. You had like your normal looking one that had all of your nice looking furniture, or I guess kind of like broken down furniture. You had one room that was like looking very weird and like secretive. It had like red tape all over it, body outlines. You had detective boards. Like it was essentially a crime scene in the making at this motel. Now, I would say, personally, the person that owns this business is named, of course, Slim Shady McGee. Last name McGee, middle name Shady, first name Slim. Slim Shady McGee owned this hotel about, several years ago. And it was around like in the 1900s, literally in the 1900s. I would say like 1932 is when he owned this hotel. And it's been in the family for several years, because with the Sims 4 business and hobbies, you can actually pass down your business to your kids or whoever is in your household. And I think that's like a really cool system to kind of make the legacy challenges a little bit more fun, especially if you're running a family business for multiple generations. One, so you can remain, to have a steady income, remain rich or poor, depending on how your business model is. But Slim Shady McGee and his family have run this motel for several decades, and over the time, things kind of went awry. At first, it was like a five-star motel, and then it kind of got weird around like in the 60s, 70s, and 80s time, where a lot of like wildness was happening in Oasis Springs with the land grabs and Johnny Zest. And of course, the Calientes with Don Lothario and Nina, Dina, and Katrina Caliente, and the mysterious of Bella Goth kind of roaming around the town at this time. She was, out doing her little thing with Mortimer, and then of course was Cassandra and Malcolm and all the different people that were around in Oasis Springs around in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s time. That I felt to me that Slim Shady McGee not only had the worst intentions of all time running this motel, he never really considered the thought of like, what was his like, his people wanting in this like motel? Was it, new property? Was it new amenities, activities at the motel, movie nights? Well, he didn't really consider that. So it went through a lot of like management changes over the years. Of course, he had still some, percentage within the business to own it and like make decisions, but he ultimately wasn't doing like the day-to-day operations here on the ground floor. And so over the years, like mostly in like the 70s time is like when he really kind of stepped away for a little bit and then decided to hire some new people to run the hotel for him. And lo and behold, this kind of resulted into some also more crazier changes. In the 70s, in the Hotel Motel Holiday Inn, the Slim Shady Hotel, not only did he step away, the hired people that he hired were also kind of like his competitors in a way, and people that didn't really like him in high school and college. He had a lot of enemies. He had a lot of different, controversies within his life, of course, with his family and everything. And it made the hotel kind of really go downhill. First, it was the carpet. The carpet was, clean and pristine, all nice and green, not green color, but like more, upkept and polished. First, the carpet, started going downhill. It turned from tan to brown to black. And then eventually it became a little bit more disgusting where we had some stains on the floor and then of course some cobwebs and some little friends kind of roaming around the hotel, just like saying hello, grabbing their food off of the floor and running the other direction. And then it slowly got a little bit more crazier. Cracks on the wall, cracks on the ceiling. You had furniture missing, furniture that was kind of tilted in a certain way. And so in the 80s, this is also when it got really crazy. Because I remember playing it like just like in my own little game. I was replaying The Sims 4 Get to Work ages ago. Because if you remember, I was on a TV show called Chicago Fire. My character was named Pete. I was basically like, you know, I was on my deathbed basically, but I was really kind of just going at it. And my character, had no lines, but I was there. I was doing a thing and I needed to be helped by Violet and Novak, who were the characters in that show. And so my idea was thinking there was like, okay, there's a lot of really interesting things with the detective career that you could do. And there's also a mod by Lumpino who is making a Law and Disorder mod that's still in early access at the time I'm recording this video. But I just remember just like thinking of the most chaotic, crazy things in my head. One with that mod of like the description, and then also with Get to Work with the detective career. Not only do my Sims always have this nice, interesting life where they'll go high and below of making their life good and then really bad. I don't know what it is, it just happens. But Slim Shady McGee and the hired people that he hired in that like late 1980s and like 1990s, it also resulted into having like of course people complaining and like lying and stealing things and parties were happening and the pool went from blue to green. And then of course over the years they really tried to make this motel hotel really like the best place to be, one to stay here for the long time, but also kind of just come and visit for the parties, the get-togethers. They usually rent it out every once in a while to other businesses or other people who want to like stay here for a couple of days, whether it's for a bachelorette, a bachelor party, a nice little like birthday party, pool party, whatever it might be. They just have these ideas that they want to do the best that they can possibly do. Now, Slim Shady McGee has been alive for a very long time. He's already an elder in my game at this point, and he is on literally on the verge of like not being here anymore. And so he never really had any kids. He never really had an extended family that could really rely on him to run this motel for him. So it was only just him running this motel and the hired people that he hired. And so, of course, as the 90s kind of came to be, the music scene, the acting scene, and of course, furniture style went in and out of way, and then fashion, and of course, a lot of different crazy events that happened in the 90s. And so Slim Shady McGee visited his hotel motel a couple of years later to decide what's really going on here? What's really happening in my motel that I can fix? And so he had the bright idea to go ahead and update it a little bit, make it more modern, more exciting for the 2000s, the early 2000s, if you will, especially in the 21st century. I mean, internet was becoming a thing, so he had to get some computers, he had to update some security systems, he had to get his fire codes all up to code, because things were not looking a little bit good around here with the stains and the cracks and all the weird smells and holes in the floor. It was not looking good. And so in the early 2000s, of course, he upgraded the computers to have like that dialer up internet, and of course bookshelves, a check-in desk, because before it was mostly just like buy like a piece of paper or a booklet by the front desk and saying, here, check in here, here's your key. Over the years, he updated a lot of things, security systems, the fire, extinguisher thing, so it's all up to code. He had a little check-in kiosk, so that way people can check in and not at the front desk if they don't want to. And then, of course, adding in like new plants, new seating, new beds, new, appliances, aka appliances, which is really was like old abandoned stuff that he found in a junkyard in Evergreen Harbor that he found in a dumpster, refurbished, and then brought back to his hotel. The cabins are pretty much the exact same as they were in the back in the late 1930s. And so it kind of is new, but it really is not new at all. So it's a little bit dingy and dirty, so just a little bit. Slim Shady would always say, hey, come down to the Slim Shady Motel. Enjoy your stay for 1 night, 2 night, 3 nights, or 10 nights. We have a 5-star hotel. We have all the great amenities that you always need. We have a nice luxurious pool. We have great indoor plumbing. We have TVs. We have fireplaces. We have events. Every single time you come here, you're always going to be left shocked, because every time you're at Slim Shady, you're always left with a good something in your stomach. And honestly, there's a lot of reading between the lines. He blurred some things in the contract when he hired people and brought people onto the team. They never really understood what actually is this hotel all about. Like what's keeping people coming here all the time? And lo and behold, all those people that he brought in and the mostly the guests that were coming to the hotel were mostly just, random people he found on the street saying, hey, want to come and stay to motel? And they were like, sure, why not? We'll do it. He's, subletted this little place before over the years. He's had ways where he made his money in a non-conventional way, and he's made his money through, you know, hiring people, throwing parties, literally charging people to literally walk into the building. Beforehand, in the 50s, I would say, to kind of track back in the 50s, this wasn't it was still a hotel, but essentially each room was actually just, standard apartments, studio, random apartments. At one point, it was 30s, 40s hotel, kind of getting their bearings across. They had 10 years, 10, 15 years of figuring out what they want to do. And they realized the hotel business in their area wasn't really making a lot of money. So they decided that, you know, Oasis Springs is still kind of booming and popping with the land grabs being in town. We could make a deal with them. We also have the Calientes. The Altos were here for a hot minute or two, and then they dined and dashed. But there was a lot of different ways they could figure out who they could trust and who they can't trust. And so, of course, they made a deal with the land grabs in the late 1950s to turn this hotel temporarily into an apartment unit. There were several different units that people could stay in for a couple of days on end and then eventually leave. And then that's when it kind of got tricky in the 60s and 70s when they decided to cut ties with the land grabs, which was a very bad idea financially for them because they owed the land grabs over $15,000 or $15,000 back then in like the 60s, and then of course they didn't pay it, so it accumulated even more and more and more and more. So now they owe 50 million simoleons and increasing in interest that they owe to the land grabs. Pretty much the land grabs own everything, but this property, I will say this property lot was actually never owned by the land grabs. You would think the land grabs own every single piece of land in every world. They come from old money. And so what's weird about like this weird situation is that this where this hotel is, the land grabs never owned the land. It was owned by the McGee family for many, 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 many generations, way before the land grabs became rich. And so when Slim Shady signed a contract with the land grabs, in that contract said, he did not read the contract, by the way, in that very tiny font. They said, "We own your land now. You cannot go back and repurchase this land ever again." And so when he signed the contract, he didn't read the fine print. Always read the fine print in a contract, because if you don't, you are going to be in serious trouble and you might get sued. But I will say, looking back at all this, I'm like blown out the water. So thinking about it, with Slim Shady signing that contract back in because thinking back, because thinking back, because thinking back then, wait, because thinking back then with Slim Shady signing that contract and not reading the fine print in the 50s, he lost basically everything. That's why he like hired people onto the team to like manage, the hotel a little bit more in like the 60s and 70s and 80s and all throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, and it's still here. And so, of course, the land grabs had their own kids. They grew their own business or businesses, several, and owned the entirety of all the Sims lots at this point. That this one particular lot they always forget about. They kind of let it just kind of die on its own, and it is now officially 100%. It is now officially 100% abandoned at this point. Of course, you can see in each and every room, there's a lot of stains on the walls, and there's a lot of dust and cracks on the floor. You have little like mice holes in the walls. The bathrooms are not really well up kept. And I would say like each room has kind of, you know, like stayed in like sand stilled in time. Nothing was really ever touched. Nothing was really ever like, moved around. The last time this property was actually operational was in the like early 2000s. I would say around like 2003 is when it literally stopped operating completely. And then of course, Slim Shady, the person he is, he tried to like sneak his way back in temporarily, like, incognito, undercover, to kind of operated again, but at a slower rate. He would do like the word of mouth. Because usually when you're trying to promote a business or trying to promote anything or like spread the word, usually word of mouth, like in person, is like the best way to market anything at this point. It's the oldest trick in the book. And I would say social media was not a thing back then, so that's all he really had. He went to Hemford on Bagley. He went to Glimmerbrook. He went to Windenburg. He's went to all these different places that the land grabs technically would never really notice them, being in. He has put up posters, flyers. He's done speaking engagements, temporarily small, like 5 people in a room speaking engagements to find like investors, but not too big investors that would make noise. So he's definitely done a lot of like hard work to like kind of rebuild his name, the family name, before like he can find his next successor, his next heir into the family name of the Slim Shady Hotel Motel Holiday Inn. Because you can kind of see technically in one of the rooms there is a body outline, and that body outline is just not a good look. Because like I said, the last time it was operational was 2003. 2003 was the last time it was operational. It is 2025, my friends. 2026 is happening in 2 months. And so in 2003, somebody came to this hotel, stayed in it for a couple of minutes, and then was never heard of again. Their body was on the floor, investigations happen, and the rest is history. Strangerville had some conspiracy theories here and there. I mean, Irwin from Strangerville, George Cahill, the mother plant in Strangerville in that lab, in the very deep, dark basement of that lab, by the way. It's just like a very conspiracy theory where things are not what they seem in this hotel. But with all that to say, I would like to go into the game and show you all the build in real time, so that way you can kind of get up close and personal of every single room, the nitty gritty details, and all that jazz, because honestly, speed builds are a lot and you don't get the full justice. But let's go ahead and go into the game. So now that we're in the game, this is what the Slim Shady Motel Hotel Holiday Inn looks like in Oasis Springs. I will say from far away, it looks nice. But if you look real close and squint your eyes and tilt your head, it looks a little bit creepy. I mean, honestly, looking at it from above, you got your solar panels, you got your satellite dish, you've got your billboards, your actual sign for your motel hotel, some graffiti, you've got some bulletin boards over here that you can click on to check out the Finchwoods Fair, the next meetups that are happening in the town. And this object right here is my favorite object from Cottage Living. It's in debug, but more specifically in live edit debug. And when you click on this object, you're actually able to travel wherever you want, because since we don't technically have any cars or buses or any transportation in The Sims 4, minus like the Aqua Zips and the bikes, I feel like this is the only way we can simulate buses without having actual buses in The Sims 4. So you're able to travel wherever you want, however you want. It's kind of a cool object. But I did add in some debug trucks over here on the side. I did originally have like 3 over here, but I felt having this here on the side made a lot more sense rather than in like the front, because it was kind of clogging up the space a little bit. But ultimately, I really like the front of the build. And then as you kind of get onto the inside of the build over here, I mean, of course, the pool is green. It's made for the Halloween season. Even though Halloween was like a couple of days ago, it's still, it's giving fall. It's giving earthy, if you will. So I added in a little lounge pool ladder thing over here. I added in some like stackable chairs on here, one chair here, and then a lounge chair over here. It's very small, very quaint, not a lot of room to walk around or have any parties, but you kind of get in and get out, and then you wash your body to get all that slime off of you. But then over here, we have the little bar area, and then over here is the check-in area, so that way you can check into the hotel, kind of get all your belongings together. We will not hold your bags because we don't have room, and it will go missing. But you can kind of tell there's a lot of like cobwebs everywhere. It adds to the decoration, it adds to the pizzazz of the spookiness for the Halloween fall season. It just makes total sense. But I did incorporate this little kiosk thing so that way you can register your small business if you want to, but then also check in, have all your guests check in so you don't have to go to the computer desk and do it that way. I also incorporated some milk cartons that we got from the previous Sims event back in like February, because technically there are still Sims missing. We got Emmett who's missing, we got the burglar that's missing, and we even have Skip Broke that is still missing till this day. He's been missing since 2004, okay? It's been a little bit too long. But we got milk cartons here, we've got some security cameras to catch you on candid camera if you do anything Slim Shady, minus Slim Shady McGee, but you know what I mean. And then on this side, we have a little hopscotch for some activities. We also have a little buffet tables over here so you can add your food from your assortments, some picnic tables. We got some vending machines on both sides over here, and then also over here. Each room has their own designated little sign above their door. They're all broken. I mean, each and every single last one of these signs up here are literally broken. We do have some lights above each door, so that way you can see where you're going and also know what room you're going into before you walk in. However, over here, we do have a hot tub, so that's always nice. But this room is a little bit unconventional, a little bit spooky. I mean, we got red tape right here, but in the room, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in this room. I mean, we've got Ricky the Raccoon over here. We've got a little body outline here from City Living. We've got bags of money. We got rope. We've got a little stolen guitar, some classified files. We got paint buckets. We got a crime board here. We have the listening device thing from Strangerville, a literal skeleton in your room. And then the bathroom is just a bathroom. It's something. It adds a little something. I mean, you have your bed in the bathroom, so that kind of tells you a lot of things of what this room is all about. nonsense and craziness. But this next room is kind of like the base is the same as the rest of the rooms. I kind of made every room pretty much the exact same because I wanted to keep at least most of them normal looking, minus the last one. But then, however, this room does have like a little bit of an extra largeness to it. So we have the bedroom in the back, and then we have like the kitchen, living, and like everything in this room, and then the bathroom is on this side. I made sure that each room had their own little piece of pizzazz, and like you can kind of tell each one has their own designated theme of what they are. I mean, this one seems normal, but it has like an upgraded back room. This one is like more standard and simple, but this one has like a frog in it, which I wanted to add into each room. It's a death frog with some secret bottles from My Wedding Stories. We got a vacuum, security alarm, and actually I'm noticing most of the rooms, actually all the rooms have security alarms. So be on watch. Robin Banks might be there. But I think I also added in where each room does have their own fireplace. This one has a fireplace. This one has a furnace. This one has a fireplace with a TV above it. And then this one does not have a fireplace because I felt like the first room was kind of like the more appealing room because you can look at it. I mean, you got a plant. You've got your nice little nightstand here with a little lamp on the side. I mean, we also have a little desk area. You got your TV. You've got mugs to drink out of if you want to. We got some nice art prints, an escape sign if you need to leave at a certain point. We also have a nice little kitchen area. I wanted to make this room the most normal looking out of the rest because as you can kind of tell, when you keep kind of going to each room, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and more dirtier. Like it's like a common theme. There's a grand total of 6 rooms in this little motel hotel, but each one gets worse as you kind of check into each room, minus the last one. That one's just like inhabitable. Just don't go in there. It's not good for you. It's not good for your health or your sight or your hearing or anything. And then in the back area, I added in an RV from Debug. So that way it adds to the story of some Shady kind of like going missing. But in reality, he's actually in this RV. So keep quiet. Don't tell anyone or Nancy Landgrab or something bad might happen to your Sims. We just don't know. And then over here, we have some porta potties that we got from the Werewolf Pack. Normally this would take you to the underground tunnels. I wish this was an actual porta potty, and I built this 7 months ago. So 7 months ago we barely had anything that we have now. So realistically I would have like swapped this out with the little porta potty thing we got from that past event, but I'm using this one. Plus it adds to the mystery and like the chaosness to it. And secretly, I believe that Slim Shady used these tunnels to go to Moonwood Mill to hide there for several decades until he felt like it was safe enough to leave. So it's kind of like his escape portal, essentially. Technically, it is having a few little, lot traits and challenges. We have natural light, bracy breeze, and sunny aspect. So there's like some niceness to it. However, there are a lot challenges. Creepy crawlies, curse, filthy, grody, and spooky. So, be warned. I told you now. If your Sims come here, it's not on me. Blame Slim Shady or even Nancy Landgrab or Don Lothario or Malcolm. Either or, don't blame me. Blame those Sims because they crazy. Either way, if you do want to download the build for yourself, it's already up on the gallery under the hashtag SpringSims or my gallery ID, which is also SpringSims. But regardless, I hope you all enjoyed this weird, grody, Slim Shady motel hotel in The Sims 4, because I definitely want to do another one, but probably in The Sims 3 or The Sims 2, just to kind of add some variety to the channel again for other Sims games. But again, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Listen to my podcast wherever you get your podcasts, because the past episode that you just listened to was from Danielle Builds. I will link that down below, and I will see you all next time. Bye!